I grew up in a family that didn't exactly believe in second chances, or in me for that matter. My older brother Jake was the one everyone praised. He followed the rules, got a business degree, landed a job with a firm downtown, and made my parents proud. I was the quiet one, the one who liked drawing, crafting, building things with her hands. While Jake got awards, I got lectures about wasting time and needing a backup plan. I didn't argue. I just kept to myself and dreamed of someday opening a small store of my own, one filled with handmade jewelry, home goods, and things people couldn't find anywhere else. My grandpa, Paul, was the only one who really saw me. He didn't care that I hadn't finished college or that I worked at a local boutique. He used to say, "You've got more heart than most people I know, and that's what builds real things." Every Sunday, I'd stop by his place and show him my new designs. He'd ask questions, take notes, even sketch out ideas with me. When he got sick, I was the one who brought him tea and listened to his old stories, even when he repeated them. I think he knew the rest of the family saw me as a disappointment. He never said it outright, but I could tell. He made sure I knew I mattered to him. When he passed, it hit hard. Not just because I loved him, but because he was the only person who truly believed in my dream. At the will reading, I didn't expect much, but I did hope. Grandpa was always thoughtful. I thought maybe he'd left me something small, a note, a piece of advice, maybe even a little seed money to get my store going. I was wrong. My mom, Carol, sat with perfect posture, eyes dry. Jake scrolled through his phone like he was waiting for the part where his name came up. When the lawyer mentioned a $50,000 inheritance, my heart actually skipped. But then he handed the check to Jake. My mom turned to me, not with sympathy, but with a smug little smile. "He didn't leave anything for you," she said. "Said you'd waste it anyway." I stared at her for a second, not in anger, just disbelief. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. I just nodded and walked out of the room. The pain sat deep in my chest, but I swallowed it. What could I say? They'd already made up their minds about me. Later that week, I found out through a cousin that the truth was a little uglier. Grandpa had left me the money, but my family made sure I didn't get it. They told the lawyer I didn't need it, that I wouldn't know what to do with it, that I'd waste it on some hobby. I felt a mix of heartbreak and fury. It wasn't about the money. It was about being dismissed. Again, being treated like I didn't count, like my dreams didn't matter. But I didn't go back and confront them. I didn't demand my share. Instead, I made a decision. If they believed I couldn't build something without help, I'd prove them wrong. I pulled out my sketchbook and started drawing again. I made a list of local markets and small business grants. I picked up extra shifts at the boutique and sold pieces online. Slowly, I saved. I didn't have $50,000, but I had something more important: motivation. I moved into a smaller apartment to cut costs. I learned how to run an online store, manage inventory, and pitch my work. I stayed up late packing orders and sent emails to anyone who might give me a chance at a booth or display window. It was exhausting and lonely, but for the first time in my life, I was building something that felt like mine. Months passed. I got better, faster, smarter. My little online shop grew. Then, out of nowhere, I got an offer I never expected. A small space was opening in the city's old shopping mall, and the landlord was offering it at a steep discount to small local businesses. It wasn't fancy. The mall had seen better days, but I saw potential. I scraped together everything I had and took the leap. It wasn't much at first. A simple sign, a basic layout, a few display tables, but people started coming in. They liked my story. They liked my work. I was finally seen, not just as someone with ideas, but as someone doing something real. And I knew, deep down, that this was just the beginning. Running the store inside that old mall started out as a dream, but quickly became a challenge I wasn't sure I was ready for. The excitement of opening the doors gave me energy in the first few weeks. I decorated the space with care, displayed each handmade product like it was art, and greeted every customer with gratitude. But soon, I started to realize how many things I didn't know. There were slow days, long hours, and moments where I sat behind the counter wondering if I had made a huge mistake. The mall wasn't exactly thriving. Many of the stores were vacant, and foot traffic was unpredictable. Some weekends I made enough to cover my rent and supplies. Other times, I barely sold a thing. The other store owners were kind, but they were struggling too. Most of them had been in the mall for years, holding on to hope that business would pick up. To make ends meet, I started taking on side work, custom pieces, online sales, even packaging orders late into the night just to stay afloat. It was exhausting. There were days when my back ached from standing and my eyes burned from lack of sleep. And yet, I kept showing up. Because no matter how hard it got, I knew I was building something that mattered to me. Every now and then, I'd hear from my family. A text from Jake, usually bragging about a new car or work promotion. My mom, asking vague questions like, "Still doing your little project?" It was always said with that tone, that dismissive, condescending tone that made it clear she still didn't believe I was capable of real success. I kept my answers short. I never told them about the store, never mentioned the progress I was making. I didn't want validation. I just wanted space to grow without their judgment. Then one afternoon, while I was rearranging my displays, the mall's property manager stopped by. His name was Mr. Reynolds, a kind man in his 60s who had been managing the property for decades. He had seen my work ethic and my attention to detail, and he admired the way I connected with customers. He pulled me aside and said, "The mall's ownership is changing hands soon. There's a chance for local businesses like yours to get in early, maybe even invest in a bigger piece of the pie." I thought he was joking. Me? Invest in the mall? I barely had enough saved to cover next month's inventory, but something about the way he said it made me pause. "You've got something the others don't," he added. "Vision. That goes a long way." I couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, I sat down with my notebook and started crunching numbers. I reached out to a local small business development group, applied for a few grants, and contacted a financial advisor I'd met at a community networking event months earlier. Slowly, I began to piece together a plan. It would take everything I had, and more. But the idea of being not just a tenant, but an owner, lit something inside me. Just as I was making progress, I received a call from my cousin Rachel. She was the only person in my family who still spoke to me with genuine warmth. "Hey," she said quietly, "I think you should know. Mom and Jake have been using your name." I was confused. She explained that they had told people I'd chosen to walk away from the inheritance, that I wasn't mature enough to handle it, that I'd gone off to chase a fantasy. I felt the old sting come back, the same feeling I had sitting in that lawyer's office, watching them strip me of something that had been meant for me. But this time, it didn't break me. It focused me. I doubled down on the plan. I cut every personal expense I could, moved in with a friend to save on rent, and poured every dollar into the store. I pitched to local investors, presented at a small business panel, and spent hours researching commercial property laws. When the mall officially changed ownership, I was ready, and I made an offer, not just to expand my store, but to buy a stake in the entire property. It was bold, it was terrifying, and it was approved. The paperwork wasn't finalized yet, but it was moving forward. And in just a few short months, I'd be more than a shop owner. I'd be a partner in something much bigger than I ever imagined. Something I built with no inheritance, no family help, just grit, sacrifice, and faith. Signing the paperwork to become part owner of the mall didn't feel like a victory parade. It felt like walking a tightrope with no safety net. But beneath the fear, there was something else, freedom. For the first time, I wasn't renting space at someone else's mercy. I had a seat at the table. I had a voice in what happened next. Every document I signed reminded me that my success wasn't tied to luck or family approval. It was mine, earned, every inch of it. I poured everything into the business. The store wasn't just a boutique anymore. It became the anchor of the mall's small revival. I gave it a new name, Root and Rise. The name meant something to me. I had started from the bottom, dug deep, and fought to grow despite everything that was stacked against me. I redesigned the shop front, added new product lines, collaborated with other local vendors, and launched events that brought people back into the building. Slowly, more tenants started returning to the mall. There was a small cafe, a thrift shop, a local artist gallery. Together, we created something that felt alive again. I worked hard, but I also worked smart. I hired 2 part-time assistants so I could focus on bigger plans: online sales, partnerships, community outreach. I didn't take a salary for months. I reinvested every dollar back into the business. I started waking up before sunrise, journaling my goals, tracking every sale, and learning everything I could about commercial real estate and business management. Then came the opportunity I never expected. The original owner of the mall, now in retirement, wanted out entirely. The property manager told me first, "If you're serious, now's your chance. You've earned their respect. They'll sell it to you." My hands trembled when I hung up the phone. I wasn't ready. I didn't have the full funds, but the idea wouldn't leave me alone. I called Marcus, the financial advisor I'd met through the business development group. We sat down over coffee and went through every number I had. "Lena," he said, leaning back after reviewing the projections, "if you can raise just a little more capital, this is yours." He helped me put together a proposal. I reached out to 2 impact investors who specialized in supporting female-led businesses. I created a pitch deck, complete with revenue charts, community growth, and my long-term vision for the mall. One investor turned me down. The other, an older woman named Denise, who had started with a candle shop in the 80s, said yes. "You remind me of myself," she told me. "Except you're braver." That money gave me exactly what I needed. I finalized the agreement. The mall was mine. Every square foot, every corridor, every store, even the parking lot. Me, the girl they said would waste her inheritance, who wasn't responsible enough, who was too creative to be serious. I didn't post about it. I didn't brag. I didn't call my family to prove a point. I just kept building. Quietly, strongly. I updated the signs, improved the lighting, worked with local schools to host weekend fairs and student art displays. People started talking. The mall wasn't just a place to shop. It was becoming part of the community again. The new billboard was Marcus's idea. "You need to show people who's behind this," he said. "People support people." I didn't want my face up there, but after some convincing, I agreed. A professional photographer came in. We did a simple shoot. Me standing inside the store, smiling naturally, arms folded, surrounded by my products. The billboard went up a week later. A clean design, no flashy colors, just the name of the mall, the new tagline, and my photo with a simple label underneath, owned and operated by Lena Carter. The morning it went up, I didn't expect anything dramatic. I just wanted to see it once before opening the shop, but within hours, traffic to the mall doubled. People came in saying, "I saw you on the billboard," or "It's so cool to see a local face behind this place." That same weekend, my family showed up. I was behind the register, talking to a customer, when I saw them walk through the glass doors. My mom, Jake, even my aunt. I don't know if they had heard about the store or just wandered in while shopping, but the moment their eyes hit the billboard outside, I saw it in their faces. When my mom walked through the doors, her eyes did a slow scan of the store. She looked at the layout, the display tables, the customers browsing, the soft lighting. It was nothing like the messy craft tables she used to roll her eyes at when I worked from my apartment. Her heels clicked softly against the tile as she stepped further in. Jake followed behind her, holding a coffee and looking around like he didn't recognize where he was. I don't think they expected to see me, or maybe they thought I still worked here, folding scarves or sweeping floors for someone else. I stood behind the counter, calm and steady, like I had been every day for the past year. I was talking with a regular customer when my mom saw me. Our eyes met, and for a brief moment, time seemed to pause. She blinked, then slowly walked toward me. "Lena?" she asked, as if she wasn't sure. "Hi," I said, smiling gently. "Welcome to Root and Rise." Her eyes flickered up to the sign behind me, then to the product tags, the name printed on them. My name. She looked over her shoulder toward the entrance, where the glass doors framed a perfect view of the giant billboard just outside, my face beside the words, "Owned and operated by Lena Carter." I watched the exact moment it clicked. Her face changed, first confusion, then disbelief, then something else entirely. Not anger, not sadness, just a quiet, stunned stillness. You own this?" she said slowly. "Yes," I replied. "And the mall too." Jake nearly choked on his coffee. "Wait, you're joking." I looked at him, calm and steady. "Number, I'm not." There was a long silence. My mom glanced around again, as if the truth might be hidden somewhere behind a shelf or inside a register drawer. "But how?" she finally asked. "You didn't have an inheritance?" I finished. "Number, I didn't. You made sure of that." She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. I didn't say it with malice. I didn't need to. The truth had already settled between us like a fog that couldn't be ignored. She knew what she had done. Jake did too. Whether they wanted to admit it or not didn't matter anymore. I stepped out from behind the counter and greeted another customer who had just walked in. My mom and Jake stood in place, still processing. After a moment, I turned back to them. "I appreciate you stopping by," I said politely. "There's a weekend market in the East Wing if you want to check it out. We're working with a few new vendors this month." They didn't move. My mom's face had turned pale, her mouth in a thin line. She looked smaller somehow, not in size, but in presence, like the confidence she carried for so long had slipped right out of her hands. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "I know," I answered. "That's the point." The customer I had been helping earlier smiled at me and said, "I love what you've done with this place. It has so much heart." "Thank you," I said, meaning it more than she probably knew. Jake looked toward the entrance again. "You really own the whole mall?" I nodded. "Every inch of it." He looked down, then gave a short, awkward laugh. "Well, damn. I didn't need an apology. I wasn't expecting one. What I had built stood tall enough to speak for itself. Their disbelief wasn't fuel anymore. It was just background noise. Eventually, they turned and left. No dramatic exit, no last words, just silence. And that silence felt better than any speech they could have given. It was the sound of them realizing they were wrong. Not just about my business, but about me. I stood in the center of my store after they walked out, breathing deeply. The billboard still hung above the mall's main entrance, sunlight catching the corner of my smile in the photo. I wasn't the same person who left that lawyer's office in silence all those months ago. I was no longer waiting to be seen. I had made myself visible, on my own terms. And as the automatic doors closed behind my family, I realized something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. In the weeks after my family walked out of my store, something shifted in me. Not in a dramatic fireworks kind of way, but in the quiet, steady sense of knowing that I had finally closed a chapter I never realized had been open for so long. Their absence didn't hurt the way it used to. Their silence wasn't a wound anymore. It was freedom. I no longer measured my worth by their opinions or their approval. For years, I had carried the weight of their doubt like a second skin, always questioning if they were right. If maybe I was just chasing a dream too big for someone like me. But standing inside my store, watching people walk through the mall I now owned, I finally saw myself the way my grandfather had seen me, capable, determined, and completely in charge of my own future. Business kept growing. Word spread that the mall was under new ownership, and people were curious. I started getting emails from other small business owners looking for a space, from local schools asking to host events, from community leaders offering support. I made it my mission to turn the space into more than just a shopping center. It became a hub for people like me, creatives, entrepreneurs, underdogs with a vision and nowhere else to start. I started hosting monthly vendor fairs, giving discounted booths to first-time sellers. I offered business workshops in a vacant office space I converted into a shared workspace. I mentored a few high school seniors who had ideas of their own but lacked guidance. I even helped one of them launch a plant and pottery shop near the food court. Her name was Danny, and she reminded me of myself, soft-spoken, full of potential, just waiting for someone to say, "You can." I kept Grandpa Paul's photo framed near my checkout counter. Every time I looked at it, I felt like he was still with me, nodding in quiet approval. I often thought about what he would have said if he'd been alive to see it all. Maybe he would have joked, told you they'd eat their words, or maybe just smiled the way he used to and said, "I always knew." As for my mom and Jake, I didn't hear from them for a while. Then one day, an envelope showed up at the store addressed in my mother's handwriting. No return address. Inside was a short note that read, "I didn't understand what you were building. I do now. Mom." It wasn't an apology. Not really. But it was something. A small crack in the wall that had stood between us for so long. I didn't feel angry reading it. I didn't cry. I just folded it and tucked it away. I didn't need a full circle moment. I already had mine. The mall officially became debt-free a few months later, and I celebrated quietly with the team I'd built. My staff, my fellow shop owners, the janitorial crew, the maintenance guys, even the food vendors. We toasted with sparkling cider and pizza in the atrium after closing hours. We laughed about how far the place had come and swapped stories about the early days when no one thought we'd make it. And maybe that was the greatest victory of all. Not the money, not the ownership, but the fact that I had taken something that was discarded, overlooked, even mocked, and turned it into something vibrant and alive. People still ask how I did it, how I went from a girl without an inheritance or support to someone who owns an entire mall. And I always tell them the same thing. I didn't do it all at once. I did it one choice at a time. I chose not to quit. I chose to believe I had value. I chose to build when I could have broken. If there's one lesson this journey gave me, it's that being underestimated can be a powerful thing. It gives you the chance to rise in silence, to succeed without fanfare, and to let your work do the talking. And when the moment finally comes, when the same people who doubted you see your name on the building, you won't need to say a word. They'll already know.